everybody.
Hi, friends. Well, from beautiful Salt Lake City, Utah.
It's Thank God I'm Atheist.
A podcast exploring religion, politics, and current events from a couple atheists just trying to live our lives in these United States.
I'm Frank Feldman.
And I'm Dan Beecher.
And coming up on the show today, Dan, oh God, lies, and the liar who tells them.
You know what? We're gonna trigger warn everybody. And I don't know what to trigger warn the most. Is it just that we're going to be talking about Richard Dawkins?
I'm triggered.
Trigger warning on that one. But even more so that he had things to say about trans people again, and
not good.
Not great. That's at the end of the show. And we are going. And don't worry, trans friends, we're going to be definitely not on his side.
Dear God, no.
Spoiler alert.
Dear God, no.
Yeah.
Oh, all right, Dan.
Yeah.
I have a story coming to us from the Church of England.
Oh, I've heard of that.
Yeah, nice outfit normally, right?
They got a king up at the top.
Yeah, they tend to be harmless. Are they? No, that's not right.
They're still Christians.
Yeah,
for Christ's sake.
What are they? They're something, but they kind of they sort of seem nicer. Maybe it's just the accents. I'm not sure.
No, they are nicer. Definitely. Like, it's definitely like if you're ordering Thai food, their spice level is 0.
Well, yeah.
Like it's still too much flavor for some, but like for the most part, it's just.
Yeah. Okay. That's nice. So Dan, with all of that sort of setting this up, I guess it sort of makes sense that when faced with a priest, more than just a priest, canon. He's a canon. Canon Andrew Hindley, right?
That's
the title. Yeah, I think he's like maybe he must be a priest. He's a priest. He's a
musket.
Yeah.
I think should be. I think all of their titles should be gun related.
Okay. Yeah, but they
Blunderbuss.
They
Joseph,
are not. They are not.
Fine.
Though. So when they had a touchy-feely priest by the name of Canon Andrew Hindley, who was definitely a risk to children and young people, like, how do you handle this? How does an organization deal with this? We know how the Catholics have done it. They just sort of move people around, right? Well, the C of E, they paid him a 6-figure settlement and pushed him out the door.
Oh, that poor guy.
Oh, the poor guy. There were 5 police investigations into this guy, and they couldn't get anything to stick, right? There was the time that in 1991, where there was alleged sex with a 16-year-old boy. I'm sorry, 17-year-old boy.
That makes it better. There we go.
The age of consent at the time was 21, so it was definitely it was statutory rape.
Yeah.
Then in 2000, after the age of consent had been dropped to 16, he decided to sleep with a 15-year-old boy.
Of course, it's no fun if it's legal.
Yeah, that's the problem with lowering the age of consent, apparently, for some people.
Right.
Is they're just going to go younger. Boy, maybe we should have trigger warned this one.
I know. Well, look, our show should just come with a blanket trigger warning.
So both of those investigations were dropped after the alleged victims and the canon denied the allegations. So okay, whatever. Okay. And then there was the time in 2001 where there was an allegation of sexual assault of a teenage boy 3 years that happened 3 years earlier. And let's see, he was the Canon Hindley was accused of giving the alleged victim alcohol and encouraging him to watch pornography, and then touching and groping and whatnot. In 2006, allegations over remarks made to a 15-year-old boy. And then in 2018, allegations of sexual assault at a party in the cathedral garden.
Oh my gosh.
This man was out of control. He really was. He was really, really, truly out of control. But so they're trying desperately to get rid of him. It got so bad that the Archbishop of Canterbury backed a plan to close this guy's cathedral if the priest returned to work.
Why can't they fire this guy? What's going on?
Well, wrongful termination, I presume. Let's see.
I feel like if you've got that many police investigations, I feel like you've got grounds to terminate.
I know, I guess, but nothing.
I guess you need a conviction. I don't know. What do you?
Right? How bad does it have to be? But the C of E, they just kept trying. They tried multiple times to pay him to leave, and but he just wouldn't. As recently as 2022, he was offered £240,000.
Good Lord.
But we do not know how much he took this time, how much they offered, and he actually did take. Because he and the church both signed non-disclosure agreements. So,
look, what's it gonna take for you to stop raping these kids? We'll pay you.
I don't know.
Good Lord!
I'm just gonna stay. I'm staying.
We're paying the criminals now.
Yeah.
Please leave the church.
Now
we'll pay you.
So the Church of England is saying that this payment was in order to settle legal action that was brought by the priest. But yeah, it's in light of the fact that the church has tried several times to pay him off. It's just wild.
There you go.
Yeah, so apparently
there's good money in bad behavior.
Yeah. And thanks, C of E. That's fucked up.
Yeah, you've really sent a strong message with that one, C of E. Good job.
Well, and because it feels like to me that because churches and in general are so weird about their predatory priests and clergy, that they probably missed multiple opportunities to make some of these allegations actually stick, right?
Probably.
To make because they were probably had their own internal problems with reporting, right?
Yeah.
And people feeling like, well, I don't want to rat him out because,
he's the priest.
And, if they were just good on the issue to begin with, they could have saved themselves, $300,000 or $400,000.
Several £100,000.
Yeah, exactly. So
probably $500,000. Who knows? It's absurd. I mean, here's the one thing that I will say. It is possible that by doing this, they actually, in a very fucked up way, protected children. Going
forward,
yes. And if that is, yes, not the ones who have already had the problem, but like they may have done a really lousy action for a good effect. And that effect is like the protection of kids. And so I'm not going to get all the way down their throats about it. Because, I mean, maybe they kind of did the right thing, sort of.
In the end, yes. But I think it's just testament to how poorly they probably handled it up to this point.
Yeah, right.
Right.
What it means is that they have no systems that could have ended this the second it even seemed like it might be a problem.
Yeah,
they've got no system in place for that whatsoever.
And one can only hope that they're smart enough to now try to put some of those in place, if for no other reason, just to save themselves some money.
Yeah,
So
one
when the
could
next
hope that
when the
but
next
if one has
touchy-feely
followed-
canon comes along.
Yeah, if one, you could hope that. You could go ahead and hope that.
I am
observed-
going to hope it. I am
I've
hoping, Dan.
observed the history, and I have little hope
I'm
on
hoping,
that front.
Dan.
Okay, great. Well, I am going to fly us back over the pond to Oklahoma here in these United States.
Boy, that's a culture shock.
Yeah. You listeners in the UK, come to Oklahoma at some point. See what you think. Now this is a follow up. So we had talked about months ago a plan that they had in Oklahoma to fund through public funds a charter school that was an online Catholic charter school.
Yeah.
And that was dumb and bad and very clearly against our country's constitution. And but it turns out it was also against the Oklahoma state constitution.
Right.
And the Oklahoma Supreme Court ruled 7-1 to block the state from opening this school.
Excellent.
Which was set. It was set to happen this week or something,
right.
this year. And the charter school board, there's apparently a charter school board, took until now to vote to actually obey that ruling by the Supreme Court and officially nullify their contract to open this school.
Oh, okay.
So they came down to the wire, and apparently the attorney general of the state, who seems like he actually cares about the law, unlike the attorney general to the state just to the south,
right?
Because the Texas attorney general is just the most corrupt human on the earth. But apparently, Oklahoma Attorney General Gentner Drummond actually thinks that, church-state separation is real and should probably happen, etc. And so he basically threatened individual board members if they voted to go against the Supreme Court. He basically threatened with citations that could have been 6 months in jail and a $500 fine.
Oh, shut up. Really?
So they fell in line. Magically there was a unanimous vote to actually obey the law on this one.
Well,
but of course they've decided to appeal their decision. They've promised they will appeal. They haven't filed an appeal to the Supreme Court of the United States, rather than just their dinky home state Supreme Court. That's not enough for them. And who knows? I mean, they're probably right that the Supreme Court of the U.S. will say, "Do what you want," because we got idiots in our current Supreme Court. It's just they're sort of just Supreme Courting for Jesus up there. So who knows?
You say they're idiots. I think they know what they're doing. They know what they're doing.
Okay, fine. Retract idiots and replace it with bad jurists.
There you go. Ding, 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 ding.
People who do not care about the law, only about Jesus.
Ding, 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 ding.
And sort of being in the can for sort of right-wing Christian nationalism.
Ding, 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 ding. Yeah,
So,
totally. I agree.
There you go.
All right. Well, Dan, actually, my next story, is related to the story that you just told. This is serendipitous. This is actually pretty great. So, did you actually say the name Ryan Walters, State Superintendent Ryan Walters?
I didn't. I do have a quote from him. He did have a tweet related to my thing.
I didn't really.
Shall I read it?
Yeah. Just so.
So here's what he had to say about my thing, and then you can move on to whatever your.
Because this is his big pet project. This guy, right? He loves this thing.
Jesusifying his the schools is the only thing he cares about. So here's what he had to say. He tweeted, "The Oklahoma Supreme Court has failed Oklahomans in their latest dismal ruling against parents and kids. They have chosen the path of liberal extremism and hold on, Marxism by depriving parents of a choice. It's shameful but predictable from a failed judicial system." Well, we agree on that. The judicial system is largely in the shit can, but there you go. They do not represent conservative Oklahoma values.
Which is what he's pissed off about. So he's been all about this like online Catholic school and it getting, state funds and all that. He also was responsible for his order. I guess of course he's responsible for it. It was his order that the Bible be placed in every classroom in the state of Oklahoma.
Right.
And that teachers
Not that he had
to
the authority to do that, and that boy did he order it.
And that they had to incorporate biblical teachings into the curriculum, right?
Mm-hmm.
So that's State Superintendent Ryan Walters. It turns out that the Oklahoma State Legislature may not be too stoked about this guy. Now, of course, you would expect that from the Democrats, but 21 Republican lawmakers have signed on to a letter requesting an investigation into State Superintendent Ryan Walters, which could potentially lead to impeachment. Now, this is a procedural thing that's happening right now. House Speaker Charles McCall said that if the legislators could get at least 51 Republicans to sign the letter, that he would consider the request. And so I'm not quite sure legally what the whole process would be, but according to Melody Huckabee Rowlett, who is a political science professor at the University of Oklahoma, let's see, according to her, for this kind of thing in Oklahoma, you don't really need to prove that a crime was committed, apparently. If they were to impeach him, right? Or to have, and it doesn't have to be a crime for the Senate to remove Walters from office. And this is her quote. What rises to level of impeachment is a little different. It's broader. Alleged incompetence. Alleged willful neglect of duties. It doesn't have to be high crimes and misdemeanors.
Okay.
So there is a chance that that Mr. Walters could find himself being kicked out of office. Now, of course, the Republicans, they're shy of. There's still 30 legislators shy of taking it to the next step of the request being considered. But it would definitely, it's already signaling to Ding Dong McGee.
Shut the fuck up.
Shut up. You're making us look bad. If nothing else, right? Walters is, of course, still defiant, accusing Republican lawmakers of teaming up with Democrats. These are folks that do whatever the teachers' unions tell them to, and they want to bring back an era of the teachers' unions controlling our schools. Sounds like better than you.
Would it? Yeah. What you want as a superintendent of schools is someone who hates teachers' unions. Someone who really doesn't want to deal with all these pesky teachers.
Right. Yeah. I will never back down to moderate Republicans partnering with Democrats to overturn the will of the people. We're not going to allow it. And so, yeah.
He's got the grandstanding down, man. I think this guy's going places.
Hopefully
This is jail.
This is
he's going places.
This is clearly, that's all that any of this has been about.
Oh, yeah.
He's just trying to make a name for himself.
Yeah.
And he has.
He has.
He has.
We're talking about him.
We know who this guy is, and
we don't give a fuck about Oklahoma.
I mean, I have to give a slight fuck about Oklahoma.
You give a family fuck about it. But
yeah. A family fuck? I give a family fuck?
Well, okay.
That
may have come out. That may not sound great. But it does sound Oklahoma.
Oh, how dare you. That's Arkansas.
And all of the Arkansans on our listening right now are like, no, it's Mississippi.
It's always Mississippi.
It's always Mississippi.
You always know it's Mississippi.
All right. Well, I'm going to, speaking of geography, I've got a geography-based story now.
Oh,
which is that Pew, our friends over at the Pew, Pew, have done a new survey, trying to sort of get at what countries in the world are the most religious countries. And it's an interesting one. Not tremendous. Like, there are no shockers here. Like, you will not be surprised to learn that, Indonesia wins for most.
Right. Because if it had been Norway,
that would have
been a headline. Yeah. Okay.
I mean, the one interesting thing is sort of like the methodology that they use, because Pew has not done a great job with the methodology, and they even admit that in their own article.
Oh.
They basically say, we don't love how we did it because it doesn't take into account, because what they basically did was they asked two questions.
Okay.
How important is religion in your life, and how often do you pray? And those questions are really, they get at something for, say, members of an Abrahamic religion like Christianity or Islam. But prayer isn't always the thing in a religion. You know what I mean? So it's like, how do you determine how religious, if a Japanese person is Buddhist and Shinto but doesn't really do much?
Should have been more like, how often do you practice your faith or something?
Yeah, but I mean, what does that even mean? I admit it is a tricky question to ask, or it's a tricky concept to sort of get at through polling.
How often do you pray when one of the world's religions requires it 5 times a day?
Right, exactly. And you won't be surprised to learn that, yes, the Muslim countries pray more than other countries. But also, like, the most Muslimist of all of the countries are also the countries where it's not legal to leave the religion. So if it's not legal to leave your religion, if you're a Muslim, then
and I get that that's what they're trying to get around, right? Is sort of
by asking,
with those
like, how
questions.
important is it?
Yeah, like, how important and how often do you actually do things, right? But rather than what is your religion?
Yeah. But I mean, if you live in a country where you could be beheaded for your religion not being important to you, I think it makes sense that 95% of the people in Indonesia are going to say, it's important for me to pray.
Woohoo, go Allah. Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
So, but I mean, who knows? Many of them are very sincere in their beliefs and in their, and of course, so yes, the top countries are all very Muslim. So you've got Indonesia and then a bunch of sub-Saharan Africa, including Nigeria, Senegal, you've got, Iraq, you've got Pakistan, and then it gets into South America and the highly Catholic countries down there, Guatemala and Honduras, etc. And then, when you get all the way to the bottom of the list, you have, and by the way, the U.S. is basically smack dab in the middle on both counts, sort of right in the middle, at that sort of median for percentage on both of these questions, which I think is interesting. Of people who say that religion is very important to them, United States is sandwiched between Moldova and Chile, which is interesting. But when you go down the list, it's no surprise to anybody that at the very, very bottom, interestingly, Japan is at the very, very bottom on that question.
Okay.
But then it's just Europe. You might as well just write the word Europe. I would be interested of all of the European countries that are in the bottom of people who say that religion is very important to them. What would you say are give me some of the very, very bottom ones. The
ones that for whom it is the least important.
The least important.
What are we calling it now? Just Czech
Republic?
Yeah.
Sure. Or Czechia?
Czechia, that's the one. I'm going to...
Good.
I think they're really low. I think I've heard that before.
They are very low.
Yeah.
They are the second lowest European country.
Really?
Are you ready?
Okay.
It's not what you think. Estonia.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me. They're...
You were going to say that doesn't count.
No.
Who's even heard of Estonia?
What? No, that doesn't surprise me.
Yeah. And then you're not going to be surprised by any of the Denmark, Switzerland, UK, Sweden.
Sure.
Latvia.
Latvia.
Finland. Anyway, and then Taiwan and Hong Kong. That's interesting too.
Oh, yeah. Good for them.
Yeah.
All right.
So there you go. Only, in the U.S., of adults who say that religion is very important in their lives, it's only 42%.
Huh. All right.
So
that feels good.
Yeah.
I'm okay with that.
Yeah.
Do they have any sense of how these numbers have trended? Do they give any context? Are they able to say in 10 years ago in the U.S. it was,
yeah,
43%.
I don't have that here. But
or did you say 48%? 48%?
It was 42.
42. All right.
So
nice.
I don't have that at my fingertips currently.
Yeah. All right.
But let's just say, we're sure that it's going down. We know that. So,
all right, Dan. Well, the Democratic National Convention is coming up, right?
Yeah.
It's soon to happen.
DNATCon.
The best of the NatCons. So back when Biden was slated to be the loser this November, they had released a draft platform, which there's been no public update of this. And sort of judging by some of the things that are in this article about it, I can't really see huge changes coming. But what's great about this article that I found on lifenews.com.
Oh, sounds like a trustworthy place.
Oh, well, of course, because it's all news. It's news for people who care about life, right? This is a pro-life.
Yeah, I was going to say that sounds like meaning anti-abortion
website. But you know what? The one thing I do trust folks like this to do is to really go through a document like this and find
all the outrage,
all
material.
of the stuff for outrage. Exactly. So let's see the draft. Again, this is just a draft, not adopted yet. The platform vows to nationalize abortion on demand across all 50 states, support taxpayer-funded abortion, protect the predatory transgender industry. I'm quoting here. People.
You better be.
Yeah.
If that came out of you, we would have to quit the show.
And continue, quote, fighting against parents who seek to keep pornography out of their children's school libraries.
Right, because that's what we're all about.
So much pornography.
Give
in these
those kids
libraries.
their porn, you animals.
No, the kids have it on their fucking phones if they want it.
Anyway. I know. I was relegated to the J.C. Penney catalog growing up.
So this is the kind of document or the kind of article that I'm reading here, right?
Yeah.
Let's see. They say the word abortion is mentioned 13 times. The concept of reproductive rights is mentioned 14 more times. Again, I'm reading their phrasing here.
Right.
The term,
because they're horrified. They're positively beside themselves.
The term LGBTQI plus is mentioned 35 times.
Oh, won't someone save us?
Climate change or climate in the context of climate change occurs over 70 times.
Oh my God, they're trying to protect the climate.
And this is according to Brent Keelan, Vice President for Strategic Initiatives at the Family Research Council. He says, but I could not find one mention of the word God in the platform draft.
No.
I also couldn't find one mention of the word Christian.
Oh, no.
Oh, the tragedy of it all.
It's devastating. It's truly devastating.
Let's see. The draft does mention the Respect for Marriage Act, which is an important piece of legislation. It's federal legislation. This is to safeguard against a dum-dum SCOTUS that might overturn gay marriage. So this would require all states to recognize a marriage license issued in any other state, which would effectively make gay marriage sort of recognized nationally, right? Because you could just go to a state. It puts a little bit of a burden on a gay couple in, say, Alabama, right?
Yeah, or
to have
Idaho
to have to like travel to another state to get married. But once they do, Alabama or Idaho would have to recognize it.
Well, what it does is it just says it. I don't think that it will. I think it has a much better effect than that, which is that as of right now, gay marriage is legal in all of these places.
Sure.
So it just means don't stop doing that, because you're just going to have to recognize it anyway.
Right. Yes, but like they're going to not, go forward with, ending gay marriage in their state, right? Like, of course, Alabama and possibly like just because it's going to be, they're going to have to recognize it doesn't mean that they're going to be like, oh yeah, let's keep issuing marriage licenses. They're not going to do that. They're going to take their moral stand and they're going to say, we're not going to do it. Even if we have to recognize it, we're not going to.
That's possible. I just think, why bother?
Yeah.
At that point, just
because they want to take the stand, right? They want to.
Yeah, maybe. I think everyone's getting tired. I think our country's getting tired of all of this bullshit.
Yeah. And
after this, if we come through and we elect that, Harris, and we elect, down ballot Democrats the way we need to.
Yeah.
I think the nightmare will start to be over. Like the spell will start to be broken.
The fever will break. Yeah.
Right.
This fever dream.
That's a great way of thinking about it.
Yeah.
Yeah. The fever will break and we'll all be able to sort of.
This nightmarish fever dream that we've been living through for the last little while.
Yeah.
I think that the spell that Donald Trump casts on the Republicans will be broken. I think there's a really good chance of that.
Yeah. And I think that reasonable people want to retake control of the Republican Party. That doesn't mean that it'll be a good party.
It's going to be a mess. Like,
yeah,
it's going to be a fucking mess. But hopefully it just sort of hamstrings them for a while.
And we can isolate out these Christian nationalists and all the ding dong. I mean, we'll still have to deal with SCOTUS. Yeah. I don't know what to do about that, but
anyway,
we'll see.
So they continue being outraged about these kind of things. And the section on freedom of religion is not good enough for them at all. Because it's really about taking actions to combat anti-Semitism, which does nothing for them because they're Christian, and Islamist, and in scare quotes, Islamophobia. Or maybe this is like questioning, like, does that even, and whatever this Islamophobia is.
So quotes. Wait, is anti-Semitism also in scare quotes?
Nope. Just
anti-Semitism is real. Islamophobia,
whatever that is.
I ain't heard of that.
Like, yeah, that's the whole, like, no, it's not a phobia.
Right. Well, which is funny because, actually, I can get people saying, but I'm not afraid of gay people. You are, but like, I can get people saying that, but these people are very afraid of Muslims.
Well, I'm kind of afraid of Muslims, so.
Well,
but I don't know.
There you go.
I don't know.
You're an Islamophobe.
I don't know if it fully counts as Islamophobia. I'm afraid. I'm afraid of Islam.
I'm afraid of radical.
I'm afraid. I think it's a shit religion, and and I'm a little bit afraid of it. But Muslims, that's a different thing, right? Sure. The people, I'm not bigoted toward Muslims. I just really dislike their religion. And then,
I mean, I dislike all of the religions, but yeah,
I dislike that one the most.
Clearly,
right? Like, and I feel like I'm allowed to do that, right?
Well, I'm not stopping.
I'm allowed to say which one I think is the worst. Anyway, it was a fun read, actually.
Yeah.
Because boy, they just think that we're the devil. But anyway.
Yeah. And their terror feeds me. I do relish Christian terror about that kind of nonsense. Yeah. Oh no, they're going to be nice to gay people. Someone think of the children.
One last thing. This one's actually pretty good. There's this section on freedom of religion, right? And it says, so this is quoting from the document, right?
Right.
It says, which says, Democrats will protect the First Amendment right to free exercise of religion for everyone, and we will maintain the separation of church and state. And then it's like they have to find something to be outraged about. And so it says, the reference to separation of church and state is the only time the platform uses the word church.
Yeah.
Good.
Correct.
Good. If this is for real, good.
Yeah.
Like, finally. Right.
Of course.
Normally,
yeah, take a stand. And also, where's your party's platform?
Oh,
you guys?
Ooh, ouch.
Where's that?
Ouch.
Is it Project 2025? Because yikes.
Yeah.
All right. I'm gonna close this out with a little bit of weird but good news, I suppose, which is do you know, I almost said Gordon Ramsay. Dave Ramsey. Have you heard of Dave Ramsey? Do you remember him?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, he has a bunch of really good restaurants, right?
That's the other one. Dave Ramsey is a Christian, very, very faith-based finance guru. Like
yes.
he teaches people how to like invest Christianly, I guess. I don't know. It's a really dumb concept, and I wouldn't listen to him if I were you. And here's a good reason. He doesn't care about, reality, to the point where back when in 2020, when there was this whole COVID-19 thing happening, he not only did he like downplay the risks of that horrible disease, but he like would refer to mask wearers as wusses and told employees that they couldn't work from home and that they would have to, and that his company was guided by faith, not fear, which didn't sit great with some of the employees, including one Brad Amos, who was a video editor for the company, and wanted to, wear a mask to protect himself and his coworkers, which apparently got him fired.
What?
Of
course it did.
Which is amazing.
Yeah.
Like, the thought that I get firing someone for not being willing to wear a mask when there's a deadly disease killing millions of people. But I don't know about someone electing to take precautions. That's a firing offense? That seems a little bit bananas. But when he decided to sue, originally the judge dismissed, because here's the thing. It's not easy to figure out what to sue for, because you got to pick a thing. You got to pick a law that was broken in this thing. And what they went with was religious discrimination, because Ramsey had very clearly tied his positions on COVID-19 and the company's positions on COVID-19 to their religion.
Right.
And the thing about it is that, like, that so this guy basically said this is discrimination against people who don't have their religion. They called it, some people are calling it reverse discrimination, meaning you're not of the religion and therefore you're being discriminated against, rather than being discriminated against for having an opposing religious belief. Because it's not like it was one of his religious beliefs to wear a mask, although that's how they framed it. His lawyers framed it as like he has a religious belief of the golden rule. Basically saying, if do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And that required him to wear a mask and to social distance and to comply with the fucking CDC recommendations, etc. Anyway, that was dismissed in U.S. District Court. They appealed, and the Sixth Circuit, the Court of Appeals, overruled that district court judge and said, no, this actually does, because the district court judge basically said that he had failed to demonstrate that there was any discrimination. And the Sixth Circuit said, no, this is discrimination based on religious nonconformity, meaning you're not conforming to our religious things.
Yeah.
And therefore, try again. You have to try this case.
Okay.
So there you go. Man, these things take a long time.
Yeah,
it sucks.
The court system is...
Suing is the worst.
Yeah.
Lawsuits are the worst. Anyway, there you go. A little bit of triumph, a little bit of sense in the world. Hopefully that goes well for that guy. And there you go. If you would like to tell us all about your encounters with, I don't know, Dave Ramsey or bad bosses or whatever, or anything that we've talked about, please feel free to write into us. podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. The telephone number is 424-666-8442. Stick around. There's more show coming up.
Well, Frank,
Damn.
we do the show, and then people write into us about stuff.
That's how it works.
We invite them to. We just invited them to. So here are a few things. We got in a little bit of hot water with some of our listeners. You'll recall that a couple weeks ago, we talked about a priest who was on Grindr, who got in some trouble, who got outed. And you and I had perhaps not enough sympathy for him. Or I think the tack that we took was that, like, you don't out people, but if someone's a horrible hypocrite and it's hurting everybody, it's hurting a bunch of people.
Yeah.
Meaning a priest, anyway. Some people wrote into us. I think we're going to need to clarify whether that is still our opinion or not. Anyway, here's a few things that people had to say. This is from Casey, who said, "Okay, guys, you're going to have to explain this to me further. I don't understand how outing a married guy for being on Grindr is any different than outing a gay priest. Both have taken vows and are committing acts against those vows in secret. Same. Casey goes on to talk about how they have a family member whose husband was having illicit gay affairs behind his wife's back. Anyway, it's quite long, but Casey says, "Sorry, but you cannot pretend to be married and then fuck around behind your partner's back, no matter what your sexual preferences are. That is just bad practices as a person. As an atheist, just all around decent human. Cheating is wrong. It just is.
Yeah.
And being a responsible human is about being honest. Anyway, I think that I think, and I'll be interested to hear what you have to say, but I think that it's not the same. That being a priest is not the same as, yes, they made vows.
Right.
But those vows are wildly different vows. One vow is like, well, it's to God technically, but the thing that a priest takes on is public, is a public trust, and is something that affects thousands of people, and that is very different. Like if someone gets married, one person has to trust that person. Right. And the rest of us, it's none of our goddamn business.
Well, and also, let's say, you're privy to the fact that somebody's cheating on their spouse. Right. And you going and telling the spouse that's being cheated on, you're informing them that they're being cheated on. Right. Yeah. You're not publicly outing the cheater. Right. For being gay, if they are, right. Or for whatever they're doing.
And if you do that, that's you're going a step too far.
Yeah. That going and publicly announcing this kind of stuff, posting about it on Facebook or something like that would be wrong. Right.
Right. Because that person has not, if that person were it's different if they're in a public position where they are taking a stand against gay people.
Correct.
And they're secretly gay.
Right.
You know what I mean? A politician or a priest who is taking a very public stance against that hurts all gay people.
Yeah.
And then they're actually gay. That's a different thing. I'm not sure that that I feel like I'm still very uncomfortable with the idea of outing them.
Oh, I'm not. I think that they deserve to be outed. Because that is the so when you go to the person and say who's being cheated on, right? And you say and you sit them down and you're like, "Hey, this is what's going on. This is what I've witnessed or have heard or whatever." It's the exact same thing as telling the public that this person has influence over. Right.
Right.
The public who trusts this person deserves to know, the believers and the non-believers, the gay people and the straight people. They all deserve to know
who's the interested party.
Yeah, because who's been violated in this, right? Whose trust has been violated, right?
Yeah.
And it goes for politicians, and it goes for, I think, probably more senior type religious folk. I don't think maybe your parish priest deserves the horrible consequences that this guy deserves. And maybe that's going a little bit back on kind of the rationale that I was just laying out. But a parish priest can be a little bit of a victim of a system.
Yeah.
Whereas if you're at the head of that system, you deserve to be called out for it.
And a parish priest who's part of the system but doesn't rail against gay people or whatever.
Right.
I mean, there probably is a proportionality question in all of this.
And so, like, for me, like, I have serious empathy for anybody who is closeted and who doesn't know the way out. Right. I don't have a lot of empathy if you're a leader in an organization. Yeah. But I still do have empathy for that person, right? Like what they're going through on a human level ain't great, right?
Right.
But there's a certain amount of, like, if you're going to be a leader in the Catholic Church, which this guy was that we were talking about, and then you're going and hooking up on Grindr, for Christ's sake. This isn't about, like, some quiet affair somewhere. He's hooking up on fucking Grindr.
Right.
Right. I don't know. Like, if you want to hook up on Grindr, great, go do it. But know that there's a chance you're going to get caught. I don't have a lot of sympathy for this particular guy. He was doing something on a fairly public, like, anybody can get on Grindr. Right. Now, I doubt he was posting his picture. Right. In fact, I'd be shocked to find out that he was posting a picture of his face. Maybe he was posting other pictures.
Yeah.
Right.
But people are pretty dumb. A lot of people.
Usually the guys who are looking for a hookup are, it's not their face, right? They're posting a picture of their junk or just leaving it blank or whatever. Yeah. So
anyway, body parts they think are going to be played to best advantage.
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, I hear the writer's concern, but I do think it's different.
Yeah. And we had another email from Joe that was, basically saying that the same thing, that he was shocked, taken aback by our comments. Mm. And so I get it, but I think we've answered it. I think the idea, I think the salient point in what you said that hit home for me is, who are the interested parties? Yeah. Because it's important that they know that their trust has been breached. Yeah. And with a priest, the interested parties are the public. Yeah. And the same with a politician. Yeah. And so I guess for the parish priest, I would feel worse for him than I would for this leader guy. I don't really feel bad for him. Right. Yeah. I feel bad that he's in a tough situation, that he's denied himself the happiness that living a life out of the closet could be. Yeah. But he'd have to give up a lot in order to do that. So he's in a tricky, awful position, right? But the fact of the matter is leaders in an organization like the Catholic Church who are out cavorting and whatnot, I think they deserve it. There, I've said it now 5 different times. They deserve it. That's our position, and we're sticking with it, apparently. Yeah. Alexandra wrote in to say, "Hey, Frank and Dan," or Frankiel and Danlin is what she wrote. Okay. The Christians have already given us the perfect symbol. This is in relation to our conversation about an atheist symbol, which, by the way, I'm going to say, you and I, after we recorded last week, had a delightful little back and forth. As we were looking up the null set thing, because I really liked the not the oval one, but the circle with the slash through it. And I was Googling it and I was looking at all these different things. I think I might make merch. I think we really might make merch. There's no announcement happening yet, but I'm in the process of getting merch with the null set. Because one of the things that's great about it is that symbol is also just a letter in several of the Scandinavian languages.
Right, yeah.
And when we clicked on, I texted you and said you have to click on the sound that makes.
Yeah.
Because it is the sound of atheism. Because that letter is like literally on the Wikipedia page for that letter, it just you can click on the little thing and it has a guy that goes
which sounds like you just heard something disgusting.
It's
right?
like, well, and then you and I were joking that it was like, oh, the missionaries have come to you open the door after you hear a knock and it's them and you just go
Yeah.
Or you find out that you're on a date with someone who's super Jesus-y, and then you're just like, Anyway, this is what Alexandra has to say, which is that the Christians have already given us the perfect symbol we need to wear as jewelry and tattoos, 666. Or if you prefer one of the more subtle versions, a barcode or a QR code will do. I can't quite remember off the top of my head which crazy Christian end times movie it was, but I once saw one that had a really cool stylized mark of the beast with the 3 6s arranged like a trefoil knot. I get that, but to me, that's just an anti-Christian one symbol rather than a pro-us one.
Mm-hmm.
And frankly, I don't want to identify myself in opposition to another group.
I don't want to. Yeah,
I'm fine with it. Like, get a 666 tattoo if you want. If you want to freak out the Christians around you, do it.
Which is
I think that's funny.
A worthwhile thing to do with your time.
Yeah, absolutely.
So, but yeah, I think that we need something that is not connected somehow to stuff that already has meaning, because it's already a sort of a symbol for something else, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, if you are an anti-Christian, an antichrist, if you will, please feel free to take on that symbol. Yeah. I think that's fine. But I don't think it quite fulfills our brief, which is fine. Joe has written in. Joe in Alaska has written in saying, Frank and Dan, listening to your latest episode where you covered failed rapture prophecies reminded me of a prank of an army buddy and I pulled. His neighbor was all about crazy religious beliefs and just knew that the rapture was coming on a predicted date. The neighbor was very judgmental, surprise, and would tell my buddy that he would burn in hell for divorcing his wife and not being a member of their church.
Oh, wow.
So, on the day of the expected rapture, I went to my buddy's house. He and I made a point of saying hello to the neighbor that morning while standing in the front yard. We stayed there for a while and watched the neighbor go into their house. My buddy and I ran into his house, changed clothes, placed our other set on the front lawn, and used Tang powder. Do you remember Tang?
Yeah, delicious.
Orange Tang. Tang powder to draw our heads and arms where our body parts would be. We also sprinkled some powder on the clothes to make it look like we turned to dust.
Oh, wow.
We sat in his house looking out the window and saw the neighbor gaze into the lawn at our clothes. Crazy neighbor looked around and then up at the sky. They were quite irate when they saw us very much alive. Then they also completely stopped speaking to my buddy after that.
I bet they did.
Yeah,
probably no great loss either.
That's a fun prank. Not great for neighbor relations, but that's
hope he didn't have any fence disputes after or anything like that, where they had to work together on something.
Indeed. Well, friends, if you are enjoying the show, if you're a fan of us doing this, because this is the thing that we do, we would greatly appreciate it if you would either consider giving us your money, which is a thing that is the only way, we don't do ads or anything, so this is the only way that we get any money for doing this. And you can do that by going to thankgodimatheist.com/donate. And that'll send you got a way to go to our Patreon. And if you go to our Patreon and you become a patron at the right level, you not only get this show, but you get the Frank and Dan Diary, which
Oh my
is
God.
bonus content every week. We do it for you.
It's so good. Everyone.
We are delightful.
Don't you want more of this?
It's only not this. It's just us talking about things that interest us that aren't this show. Anywho, that's free. That's not free. Well, I don't know. It's our gift to you if you're a patron at a certain level. So we would appreciate that. If you can't afford to become a patron, that's okay too. We definitely understand that. But find ways. You can review us on the iTunes or wherever you're listening. You can tell friends about the show. Helping us grow is a very important thing too. So anything you can do to help, we appreciate. And I think we have one person to appreciate the extra most.
We do indeed, Dan. Our top donor, our Lord and Savior, Davis.
More show coming up. All right, Frank, listen. Richard Dawkins is done.
We knew that.
We fired him a long time ago, and he did not get the memo. For those of you who don't know, maybe there are some people who don't know who Richard Dawkins is. He was a hero of the atheist movement for a while.
God,
he wrote the God Delusion.
Yeah,
that was him, right?
Yeah, that sounds right.
He's an evolutionary biologist. Yeah. So, but he's also like an old dude. And the thing is that he has stopped being good. He doesn't produce anything like that forwards the atheist thing anymore. What he does now is be mean to trans people on Twitter.
It's remarkable. It's all I ever hear about him now.
Yeah. Yeah. This is a bad retirement, Dawkins. Stay off my lawn is perfectly reasonable at your age. Just do that.
Yeah.
But instead he has decided to chime in on all sorts of things, including a recent tweet where he commented on now, and this has been a whole thing.
Yeah.
Olympic woman boxer Iman Khalif, an Algerian who won the gold.
Right.
She has very masculine features, it's true. But this woman was assigned female at birth because she had female parts. She was raised a girl. She grew up to be a woman. She identifies as a woman. This is a cis woman.
Yeah.
Now, a few years ago, she had an issue where she was competing in an international thing in Russia, and the Russian organization that was sponsoring the event accused her suspiciously after she had beaten their Russian entry into this tournament or whatever it was. They came out and said that she had tested XY chromosomes, and they disqualified her. Now, listen, human beings are complex creatures, and biological sex and gender are really complex issues, and there's not just a binary. We know this. You can be XY and have, a vagina and breasts and be a woman. XY chromosomes do not determine your biological sex. There's a lot of stuff that goes on that determines biological sex. Anyway, one person who should definitely know that biological sex has many, many different things that determine it is Richard Dawkins, evolutionary biologist, who ended up tweeting recently, 2 men masquerading as women are being allowed to box against real women in the Olympics. These are neither of the people that he is talking about are men or have ever been men or were assigned male or female or male at birth or anything. They're not trans people.
Right.
These are women. They literally, what drives me crazy about this, and of course, J.K. Rowling jumped on this thing, and like the entire Twitter sphere, the exoplanet, was all a buzz, and it's what's hilarious to me about this is that this is going literally against everything that the anti-trans people have been saying this whole time. Because what the anti-trans people have been doing this whole time is, we know what a woman is. A woman is a person who has a vagina when they're born and who has raised a girl and blah, blah, blah. That's what a woman is. We know it. And now they see a woman who is, whose face looks masculine, whose body is very powerful. And they're like, I don't like it. I don't think it's a woman. I just think it's just literally to some extent, like, these are the same assholes who made that movie, What is a Woman? Matt, what's his name? Have you heard of this?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, there was a film called What is a Woman? Matt Walsh made it. This is a far right nutball connected to the Daily Wire.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just there's supposed to be this gotcha question. What is a woman? And all the liberals are having trouble defining it, but we conservatives know exactly what it is. Well, guess what? This woman who was this boxer meets all of your definition. It's your own definition. And even that XY thing is spurious. It came from one source. That source had a vested interest in getting her disqualified.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's spurious, and the Olympic Committee doesn't fucking care about it.
Right.
So anyway, I just think it's that whole thing about, like, what's porn? Well, I can't define it, but I know it when I see it. I know a woman when I see it. It's like, they refuse. Here's what I think this proves. I haven't let you get a word in edgewise.
Yeah,
but here's what I think.
You're doing fine.
Here's what I think this proves. What it proves is that they don't actually care about genetics, about chromosomes, about what they care about.
The science part of it.
They don't care about the science part of it at all. They can scream, and they scream science words from, like, at the tops of their lungs. But all they care about, when it comes right down to it, is their widow feelings that this gives them the ick.
Mm-hmm.
And they can't handle it. They don't know what to do with their feelings. And so when the science isn't on their side, they don't care.
Right.
The science that they've been spouting suddenly doesn't matter anymore, because all they care about is that they've decided that it's weird and they don't want to deal with it.
Well, right. I mean, because when somebody like this boxer comes along, she transgresses against their idea of what a woman is. Right.
Yeah.
And that's all it is. And then they have no idea how to respond. But they have an idea in their head of woman, and actually they mean wife, right? Teenage girl or wife.
They mean baby factory and sex object.
Yeah, exactly. And that's what they want. And so here's this woman who doesn't fit that, doesn't look like she fits that, right? And that's the problem. They don't like it. And to be honest, I think somebody like Richard Dawkins at this point, he's decided this is the hill he's dying on, and so he just keeps retweeting everything. And he's like, well, this is me now. This is my new thing.
Unless you think that it was just that one thing. He went all in on it. He kept tweeting things like, a picture of a motorcyclist in front of a bunch of like bicyclists that says biker who identifies as a cyclist wins the Tour de France.
Yeah.
Another picture of a bunch of men in a foot race, and it says first biological cheetah who identifies as a man set to take gold for the blah 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 blah.
Yeah.
It's such a bad argument and a bad faith argument.
Yeah.
And the fact that he's willing to make it so deeply tarnishes his credentials and his bona fides as a serious person, as a scientist,
as everything that he had like built his brand around, right?
Yeah.
That like, it's like, well, I don't care how good his atheist books are at this point.
No.
Right? I want nothing to do with them. Right.
I mean, they're from the 80s anyway. Like he's out of date. Who the fuck cares what he thought? Like he was important for his time.
Yeah.
And I'm actually really grateful for him for that.
For being outspoken at that time.
Yeah. That was a really bold, powerful thing that he did then. And now he's just shitting all over his legacy.
Yeah.
Which, okay. Bye, I guess. We want to revere you, Richard, but don't have heroes, people. I think that's the.
I don't know that he was ever a hero of mine, but he was somebody who I suppose,
he was a lot of people's hero.
Yeah. And I'm very picky with my heroes.
Well, don't have them.
I actually, that's probably I probably. Yeah, it's hard for me to even think of somebody that I would consider a hero.
Yeah, let's just realize that people can do good things and then also do awful things. The same person, and that's just how humans work. So, woohoo!
And then you have, all right. Well,
anyway, I don't care about anyone's feelings about trans people.
Yeah.
That's none of anybody's business except to love them.
Yeah.
Just be nice to trans people. They're great.
Yeah. So
what's your problem?
But also just like this whole thing about like, so he's lying about these boxers.
Yeah.
And then his Facebook page, he loses access or it gets taken down momentarily. And he freaks out and just starts accusing Facebook of having like censored him. And Facebook is like, no. Your account was hacked.
Yeah.
Like that's what we do when your account gets hacked.
We shut down your account because we noticed
that
you were being hacked and you're too dumb to change your password. So, so there you go. He's an old man. Get off of his lawn. And don't listen to him anymore. Yeah. That's the end. All right. Well, thank you all so much for listening. If you would like to write into us and, I don't know, defend Dawkins or whatever you want to do, do what you want. But write into us, podcast@thankgodimatheist.com.
Or call and leave us a voicemail message. We'd love to hear from you. The telephone number is 424-666-8442.
Yeah, and thinking of thankgodimatheist.com, go to that/donate and give us your money.
This episode was edited by Roger Gowdy, and music was provided by the Red Rock Hot Club and Gordon Johnston.
Hey, thanks all y'all for tuning in. We sure do appreciate you.
Thanks so much. Bye-bye.
Thank God I'm Atheist is a production of TGIA Media, LLC, copyright 2024, all rights reserved.